And on the lines, Winston Shrout Solutions in Commerce. Hello, Winston. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
Well, I am absolutely giddy and happy to be back speaking with you. Time just flies so quickly.
Oh, it
Winston.
does. Indeed, it does.
I'm telling you. Why don't you catch us up and reintroduce why you are bridging and going into Exo-Commerce from your Solutions in Commerce great knowledge base?
Well, it kind of goes like this, that having been a student of history of the system that we have and so forth, there's certain things that have happened in our system with the financial matrix, with the money and so forth, that plays very well into the dynamics that are displayed by those from other places. In as much as, for instance, these friendly extraterrestrials that seem to be concerned with us and our welfare and so forth, they don't use banking. They don't use money. They have developed a system where they can exchange energy freely without the use of a middleman. And so as we move up, as we try to ascend, as some like to say, then the knowledge that we have that was created way back in 1933 plays well into that ascension and that change. So with that in mind, I have been trying to basically reach out to the community of people who are involved in these more spiritual aspects, and then certainly many of those are contained within what we would call the UFO or the ET community, those who have been studying some of those areas. So as luck would have it, I have made the acquaintance of some of those, among whom is Robert Potter. Now, Rob has been around a long time. Rob has been a contactee for ever since he was a teenager. And since that time, he has worked with, and actually, he told me that he had met, I think, either 7 or 8 separate extraterrestrials over his period and so forth. And actually, I think he has a basic appointment as an ambassador. In other words, they would like for him to spread the word, and so he does. And he does a very good job of it. And so with this interview, what we want to do is to explore some of the efforts that are being made, on our behalf, in our solar system and in our galaxy and so forth. So I'll be interviewing Rob, be asking some questions that will point him in those kind of directions, and then along with our typical webinar technology, people can text in real-time questions as they hear certain things, and then certainly we'll consider those questions as they come in, as the opportunity avails itself. So that's kind of what it's about.
Exo-Commerce Setting the Stage. It's a live webinar coming up on Saturday, March 21st, 2015, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And so people can register. You probably got one of the lovely emails, but you go to exocommerce.net. It's only $25 for this 2-hour incredible webinar with Winston and Rob Potter. And so there is so much going on, sir, as I understand, in this galactic battle. Could you tell us what you are tuned into? I know there are so many things that you pay attention to. What do you think? What would you like your listeners and followers to know at this time?
Well, actually, it's quite interesting. There's 2 things that I would like to bring to people's attention. The first has to do with all these booms that people seem to be hearing. Maybe for the last 2 or 3 months, maybe even longer, there have been reports from various places that people are hearing unexplained booms or explosions that appear to be coming from above the earth. And so they've said, well, we wonder what that is. Well, anyway, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was getting some emails from James Gilliland. A lot of people are familiar with James. Anyway, he was over on Maui helping the people to work out some technology and whatnot to try to oppose the GMOs and all that kind of thing. But in any event, James had sent me an email, and he was commenting on a war in space. He says there have been some battles raging very close to us, out of our sight, of course. He said, but there's been some battles raging, and he says the light forces have, in fact, won those battles. And so, perhaps, that description would explain some of these loud booms that people hear at different places. And then as it turned out, that very same day that, like I said, email from James, Rob Potter called me, and on some other things, but we got to talking about that same thing, and he confirmed what conclusions that James had come to as far as this battle is going on. A real battle, folks. I mean, this is Star Wars stuff that's going on, but Rob confirmed very much, what James had passed on to me. So we have that kind of thing, going on around us and so forth. And then there was a second thing which gets in my mind now that I was going to bring up, and maybe it'll come to me in a minute.
Yes, absolutely. Well, when we're talking about the dark forces and the light forces, give us just an idea of who is aligned with who. I know we know there are such things as Palladians, Zeta Reticuli. We have people coming out of Orion's belt. Who are the players in this galactic struggle, sir?
Well, if people would like to go investigate some of these things, there's certainly some good sources they can go to for information. Certainly, about a month or so ago, Alfred Weber did an interview with, what's the fellow's name? Randy Kramer, who had been part of the Mars Expeditionary Force and so forth. So he interviewed Randy and Simon Parkes in England. And wow, was that ever a revelation, some of the things that they had brought up. And so there's quite a few things there that was going on. I would suggest that perhaps many of these local battles that are being dealt with are probably dealing with some of the Dracos, reptilians, and that class of people. So I would suppose that's probably the main opposition. And I remember now what I wanted to bring up. Certainly people should realize that this planet has been under a basic quarantine now, some say for like 25,000 years. But in any event, there are strong indications that there had been an electronic grid placed around the Earth, principally for the purpose of mind control. And they've done a pretty good job of it over the time. All you have to do is look in the mirror to prove that. In any event, so the question would be then, how can we free humanity so they can exercise the God-given right of free will? And you can't if you're under mind control. But I did talk to James here recently, who apparently has the ability to see those kind of things. And he told me that as he looked up, he said that grid is gone, which opens up the planet for a lot of energy, which you have to be careful with because, energy is actually neutral. And so when energy comes in, if it hits a good guy, then we call it good energy. If it hits a bad guy, then we call it bad energy. But in any event, the energy that's now available, which is coming into the planet, can have a very exciting effect on anyone. And so, but it also helps us to purge out, some of the bad karma and things that people suffer with. So don't resist the energy. Take it in and use it to clear away some of the cobwebs, that have been placed there by this mind control, which has been operating on us for a very long time now. See, one of the purposes and one of the results of this solution in commerce that I have been involved in for over 10 years now, almost 10 and a half years,
yes,
is that if I could give just one thing different than people had conceived of in relationship to commerce, court and all that kind of stuff, but if I can just give one new idea to someone, it puts a crack in the mind control.
yes.
And then they can start, once that crack is there, then they can start to disassemble the mind control that's been over them and then look for a little bit of light. And so we have been, in my estimation, not to be tooting my own horn, but certainly we have been.
Go ahead and do that.
Yeah. But certainly, through that effort, we have affected literally millions of people, and that works into what we would call the collective consciousness. And certainly, if people understand the 100th monkey technology, then we have far surpassed the minimum percentage which is necessary to have that 100th monkey effect. So it's all been good.
So it's really fantastic, sir. That it seems that with that people are taking up the mantle, becoming personally engaged in their own ascension process.
Yes.
And I can imagine that people, that your website, I really hope is exploding, both Exo-Commerce and Solutions in Commerce, because you are bringing material to this etheric battle that is going on. How is it that the work that you have done at Solutions in Commerce dovetails so nicely with helping the battles that are happening in the etheric realms? How does that?
Well,
I
think that Einstein hit it right, and others have commented on this also, and I've seen it to be the truth. Is that if you're trying to solve a problem on a certain level, you can't solve it from that level. You have to solve it from a higher dimension.
Yes.
Now, so when I do lectures, give information out in Solutions in Commerce, even though we're all gathered together on the third dimension, when I teach from either a fourth or a fifth dimension perspective, and then people can hear that on whatever level they choose to, and as they listen to it again and again, then they get they get brand new insight. And I've had many people comment on this. And so in essence, we're combining the third dimension with other dimensions, and we're just simply using the examples in the third dimension, to get there. But we have to resolve these third dimensional problems from a higher dimension, and that's why I've always told people in regards to commercial redemption, as we call it, you have to go metaphysical or you won't understand it.
And that I think is such. What do you mean by that you have to go metaphysical? What is that? How does that translate? Like if somebody said that to you, what course of study, what approach would you take to start understanding that part of reality?
Well, you have to kind of look at it, the situation with two set of eyes. With your physical eyes and also with your spiritual eyes. And the reason I say that is that years ago I had done a seminar or a workshop down in South Carolina, and we had a good crowd there, and they was all good people looking for solutions and whatnot. Anyway, at the conclusion of that, as the sponsor was taking me back to the airport, one of the fellows called on his cell phone. He said, "Hold on a minute, let me put this on speaker." And so this guy on the phone said, "I got it." I said, "What did you get?" He said, "I got it." He said, "You were giving us a spiritual message." I said, "Yeah, you got it." And so aside from the commercial problems that we were addressing, it was also coming through from a higher dimension to confirm, the process and what we were trying to accomplish. So, again, to really comprehend the message of solutions in commerce, then you have to go metaphysical, because that's the first thing I learned when I started studying this. One of my first teachers, or one of the first individuals that I ran into, was a man named Roger Elvig. And this is an interesting fellow, but I realized right up front, to understand his logic and reasoning in some of these areas, you had to look at it from a metaphysical perspective, or you simply wouldn't get it.
Yes.
Because, if you just listen to Roger, from the third dimension, you're going to say that guy is goofier than a bug. But then if you open your spiritual eyes and your understanding and so forth, then all of a sudden, the things start to make sense to you. I'll put it that way. So again, when we're dealing in courts, I did this in court one day. I went metaphysical. And that was, this judge was trying to establish jurisdiction by pinning me to a certain residence. And so he said, and so you live at, 123 Main Street. And I said, no. He said, you don't. He said, where do you live? I said, I live right here in this body. I said, you hear me talking, don't you? So I went metaphysical on him, and it worked out pretty good. They ended up dismissing the whole thing, which was a farce anyway. But in many instances that we get into, you just have to realize that this physical body, if I leave this, the body's going to fall to the ground.
That's right.
And so it's not about the physical body so much as it is the entity that animates the physical body, which again, we're talking about metaphysical subjects.
Yes. Well, what's brilliant is that by you knowing yourself, that gives you so much power to stand up in front of these in these black robes and to have the power over their authority. And power always trumps authority. And that's what you demonstrate.
Well, yeah, kind of like that. But also, one of the things that they feed upon and that they rely upon is fear.
Yes.
And if they can throw you into fear, then they're having a picnic.
Yes.
So when you come into such a situation like that, completely fearless, then they starve to death.
That's right. That's right. And they want to get you out of that court as quickly as possible.
Yeah, sometimes.
So people in the audience just don't get to see what it's like to actually be human in your power, and bringing that non-physical presence and power into this 3D, 5D plane.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, that's kind of what we want to do with Rob. Rob has a wealth of experience.
Yes.
And great knowledge in a lot of these areas. And so rather than have Winston, telling people these things, let's listen to Rob for a little while, and he'll share with us many of his experiences, and also give us some kind of perspective of the things that are being done, in space or whatever you want to call it. But many things are being done which will work well toward the liberation of planet Earth.
Well, and that is coming up next Saturday, March 21st. And all you need to do is go to www.winstonshroudsolutionsIncommerce.info. This came into your emails, and it is you'll get a web page where you'll be able to register for this Exo-Commerce Setting the Stage webinar. It's really fantastic. You can also call 971-333 1005, 971-333-1005 to register for Exo-Commerce Setting the Stage next Saturday, March 21st. And it is going to be with Rob Potter, Winston Shrout, of course, and they are going to be speaking into aspects of our planet's role in the extraterrestrial universe and the global shift in our collective awareness. Winston, you are always pushing the boundaries, bringing information now that is going to be so useful in our next step towards bringing heaven on earth. That is possible, Winston,
exactly.
isn't it? We don't have to go through an Armageddon and a revelation and all of that stuff. It seems like that's what's going on right now with all of these wars. We're ready to bring heaven on earth, aren't we?
Yes, if you carefully follow the comments and investigations of Alfred Weber on his Exopolitics website, where he discusses how the timelines have shifted since December the 21st, 2012, you can make some better sense out of this. And so right now, the evil forces are right on the brink of complete destruction, and they're fighting back with everything they have.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point here on the planet, we've pretty much gotten things into control. The financial matrix is being altered and improved and corrected. Also, the judicial system has been worked on very heavily by Lady Portia, St. Germain's twin flame. And so here on the planet, we're working very diligently to correct these things. And then our friends who fly around above us and so forth, they're doing their part too. So with the collective effort of those above and us below, we'll reach that compression that Cobra keeps talking about. And so we're well on our way.
And so, darlings, do go to Winston Shrout solutionsincommerce.info. Okay, not .com, not .net, but .info/Exo-Commerce, and you will come to the sign-up sheet so that you can be there for the webinar next Saturday from 10 till noon. Yes, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Exo-Commerce Setting the Stage, Saturday, March 21st. Call 971-333-1005, 971-333-1005. Winston, always such a pleasure. When are you going to be back in California again? When are you coming back down?
Well, I was thinking about flying down there in the morning, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I've been helping some people down there with some transactions, and so I'm kind of just on the wait list to get on to schedule a flight. But as much as you asked me, it may be tomorrow.
Well, I think that's great.
But not for a seminar.
Oh, well, maybe we can all convene. If you're going to be down here, definitely want to come and convene with you. So we might be lucky down here in L.A., but you will be lucky everywhere in the world next Saturday, March 21st, meeting up with Winston and Rob Potter, Exo-Commerce Setting the Stage. Winston, bless you for all that you do, and thank you for bringing the good news every time we get to meet.
Well, I'm always happy to talk to you. You have such a beautiful and pleasant voice.
Thank you, sir.